All right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're doing another tier list. Now, we haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm pretty excited. We've done a camouflage tier list before. We've done military vehicles tier lists, weapons tier list. But today we're doing a war movie tier list, which is going to be pretty hard to rate, I think, just for me, because I haven't watched a lot of these movies in a while. And some of y'all are probably going to have some pretty strong feelings on some of them as opposed to some of the others. Now, I will say I have about 10 to 15 here. I was going to add some more, but I'll just kind of leave that for part 2 if you guys like this video. But yeah, I think some of these are going to be pretty good, but I think a lot of these are kind of overrated as well. But yeah, let's switch over to the tier list. Here we go. Okay, so we have S tier is going to be the top tier. F tier is going to be the absolute bottom. So we will start it off with a classic and a favorite of mine, and that is Black Hawk Down. So Black Hawk Down, I think, came out in 2001. But yeah, it's a pretty old school movie. But this thing, I gotta say, I've watched this movie probably like 10 times at least. It's probably like my top 3 favorite war movies, just because it's something that really motivated me to actually joining the military, among a bunch of other things. But yeah, I love watching this movie, and that's kind of how I pictured the infantry and how it would be whenever I was actually joining. So this is going to go straight to an S tier. Make sure it's not getting too, I mean, it's kind of cut off. I'm gonna have to resize it a little bit. But yeah, Black Hawk Down being an S tier, I think that's pretty safe. I want to know what you guys think with a lot of these movies, especially since a lot of you aren't from the US. I think the US tends to do a little bit more war movie kind of stuff than everybody else. So I think our standards are pretty high. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think. Now, next is going to be another classic. Okay, that's not the right one. Saving Private Ryan. So Saving Private Ryan, I'm not sure when this one came out. It's been out for a while as well. But again, this is another classic. Now, I don't feel as strongly about this one, I gotta say. It's really not one of my favorites. I would give it, the actor lineup is pretty good. It's also pretty interesting. You have Tom Hanks, you have Barry Pepper, you have Vin Diesel. I'm putting like a weird ranking to the actors, I think. But yeah, so the actor lineup is pretty freaking good. I will say that. The acting is good. I mean, the quality in general is fantastic. I mean, I think the budget in general is pretty freaking high for this movie, but I think I'm going to have to throw it at a B tier. There's really nothing that really stands out. I mean, if it's on, I'll probably watch it, but I don't look forward to watching this movie, which I think separates the B and the lower tiers from like S and A tier. These are ones that you're probably going to look forward to watching, and you're going to be kind of excited when they actually come on. Okay, so this is a more modern one. I think this came out, must have been like 2019 or 2020, I don't know. But 1917 is a pretty cool movie, I will say. I definitely enjoyed watching it. It's kind of hard with movies because I think the more recent you watched it, the higher it'll actually be, especially if you watch it in theaters. That kind of adds a little bit to it. 1917 I did see in theaters, and it was okay. I gotta say, it was good quality. I mean, the sound design was fantastic. The cinematography was fantastic. But the story itself was like kind of I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the spoiler alert, of course, I'm probably gonna throw in some spoilers for these every now and again. But when like the main dude got shot and he just died, I'm like, I feel like they could have helped him. He probably could have been saved, but they didn't really try too hard. And it was just really drawn out. I don't know. I guess it was supposed to be dramatic, but yeah. I would give it a B tier. I think it was a good movie. I would enjoy watching it again. I haven't seen it as much as Saving Private Ryan, but I think they're about equal. I mean, good quality. A lot of people would stand by them, but for me, you know, it's not one of my most memorable ones. Okay, now y'all over in Finland will recognize this one. Unknown Soldier. This bad boy is immediately going to an S tier. And I've done a separate video on Unknown Soldier specifically because you guys wanted me to check it out. And I'm glad you guys put me up to that movie because it is fantastic. It's something that I'm sure a lot of Americans haven't seen. I mean, there is an English version, which is actually done pretty freaking well. But I think y'all over in Finland will know this as Tuntematon Sotilas, which again means unknown soldier. But it's just a fantastic movie. It balances everything really well. It's got good action. I mean, the budget itself was pretty freaking high, so there's that. But the actors were fantastic. The director was fantastic. The music was fantastic. It had good action and good drama, and it balanced them really well. Because I mean, I really like when the movies are more gritty. Like war movies are a little bit more gritty because I mean, there's no point in adding so much drama to something that is literally the crappiest thing you could see in life. But I think they did a really good job with balancing everything, and it was very realistic, very believable. It had enough characters for you to get interested in like all their different backgrounds, and it was able to sort of build off of those backgrounds, but not so much where it was like jumping around so much, kind of like Game of Thrones where it gets kind of hard to focus. But I think it did a good job of balancing everything, which is why I want to put it at an S tier. And yeah, it's a fantastic movie. If you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it, especially if you like war movies, because it's a really good one. Okay, this is another favorite of mine. This is one that I have watched a lot. I don't know, it must have been probably like 10 times as well. But Platoon is definitely my favorite Vietnam War movie. Again, it's very gritty and it has like a pretty cool dynamic, kind of more dramatic than it needed to be. And sometimes, especially when the dude's getting shot and he's like raising his arms up, it's dramatic. It sends a message, of course, but I think it did a good job of focusing on the characters, building their characters pretty well. And you really start feeling sympathy for what they're actually going through, because Vietnam is just such a shitty situation to be in. For these guys to, take it in stride, I say take it in stride, they're basically surviving, and you really start sympathizing with just how crappy it must have been. So I knew a Vietnam vet growing up, very close family friend, and whenever I watch this movie, I just picture, him and his struggle with this movie and that sort of conflict particularly. But yeah, it's pretty close to me. I'm not necessarily going to give it an S tier, but an A tier is definitely something I'm comfortable putting it at. So very good movie. This next one, this one's going to be kind of controversial. So you guys would expect the Marine to put this movie pretty highly because it's, very Marine focused. You got, Gunnery Sergeant Arlie Army out there doing his thing. But the rest of the movie, like, what even happens? Again, I was born in the 1990s, so this movie was a little bit more old school for me, but I don't remember a whole lot about this movie. I mean, there's definitely some very classic scenes that came out of this movie, but for me, it's not that memorable. So I am probably going to have to put it personally at a C tier. I don't necessarily think it deserves, to be a little bit lower because of the quality or what have you, but for me, there's really not a whole lot to it. I love the scenes. I like the memes that came out of it, especially with like the drill instructor scenes and what have you. But aside from that, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I'm trying to think what even happened in this movie. Again, this is one that I was kind of like forced to see. It's an obligatory thing for Marines to watch, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. So sorry if you guys, of course, if you guys disagree with anything, let me know how you think you would rank some of these movies, especially if I, really trespass against y'all, putting some of these a little bit lower. Okay, so this next one is a little bit more modern as well. I think this came out in like 2015, 2016. I don't know. I'm kind of just thinking back on my military career when some of these movies actually came out, when I was in, kind of what I was doing or what my mindset was at that point. So I think it came out around 2015, but it's more modern, and this movie takes the grittiness and the violence and just puts it at the absolute top of their priority list. And it is pretty freaking brutal to watch. If you guys haven't seen it, if you don't like gory stuff, you're not going to like this movie because it is just brutal. It's very unforgiving. And that's what I really like with war movies, is when they put that, really in the forefront, because it's just, again, it's such a crappy thing, and they really need to add a little more attention to that, I think, with war movies. But as far as the story itself, it really focuses on kind of like one character, and I think his struggle is really interesting because, he's trying to be, I think he's trying to be a conscientious objector. That word is so hard for me to say. Conscientious objector. He was trying to go to war without a gun because he was a medic, and I don't know if it was a religious thing for him, but yeah, that was his big focus. So in the movie, he's just in the worst situations possible, and he's constantly moving people off the battlefield, and it's really freaking badass. It's really harrowing to watch, and for me, being in at the time, I was pretty freaking motivated by this movie, I will say. So I'm going to have to give it a high B tier. I think I appreciated it a little bit more than 1917 and Saving Private Ryan, but as far as the Platoon level, like, once you start going S and A tier, that's like really legendary stuff. Hacksaw Ridge, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but it's not necessarily something that I'm probably going to pick over all these other movies. Okay, so Dunkirk. Dunkirk was an interesting one. That was, again, pretty recent. I think that came out in 2017. So this movie was alright. It was definitely different from traditional war movies because, you know, it's like an evacuation. It's focusing on the evacuation effort. You had some pretty cool characters in it, especially like the pilot and whatnot. But I gotta say, I didn't know what was going on with some parts of the movie. There was just like, the pilot was like out of fuel or something, or his engine was dying, and he was just flying for like ever. I was like, what's going on? I thought he was about to go down, but he lasted pretty freaking long, which is kind of cool. I mean, the buildup is nice. He ends up like landing the plane on the beach, and he ends up destroying his plane, and he gets captured. But it was a pretty cool movie. Not so much character development, but I really loved seeing like the efforts of the civilian sailors and whatnot, and everybody getting their own personal civilian ships and going to help with that. Because I wasn't too familiar with the story of Dunkirk, but seeing it in the movie, I think they did a good job of capturing the emotion of everything. So I'll put this at a B tier. I think it stays pretty well there. Of course, let me know what you guys think about it. Dunkirk, I think, is one of those movies that you either like it or you hate it. I don't know. I kind of got mixed feelings on it, but I definitely enjoyed it and I appreciated it as far as the story that they were trying to tell. All right, so we are a little bit over halfway done, but we still have some crazy movies to bring out. Now, We Were Soldiers. The thing I will say the most about We Were Soldiers is I think it has the best music out of any war movie, because it was like Hans Zimmer, I think, did the music for it. It was just fantastic. So whenever I think of this movie, I think of the music specifically. So We Were Soldiers did a good job. I am going to immediately put it at an A tier. Again, I think Vietnam movies with me specifically are a little bit more personal because, again, at the time these were popular, that was when I was like really considering the military, and that's when I was kind of, again, comparing it to my family friends. Full Metal Jacket, not so much. But We Were Soldiers, it was good. It had some solid violence. It really gets you to just like, I don't know, it focuses not so much on like the gore aspect of war, but it focuses on just how crappy it must have been to be in certain situations. Like people getting hit with napalm, just such a brutal thing. And again, with that freaking music, it just takes it at such a high level. But yeah, We Were Soldiers does a really good job. Solid actors, solid character developments, like especially with like the photographer and whatnot. I think it was pretty freaking solid. So A tier, a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people will put that in S tier, but for me, A tier is definitely good. Okay, Das Boot. I have no idea when this movie came out. I only saw this probably like a year ago because one of y'all like really wanted me to check it out. So I'm like, okay, I need to check it out. They were pretty, you were pretty passionate when you were recommending it. So that is why I checked it out. And it was a fantastic movie. I will say that. Not so memorable, to be honest. I'm trying to think about it, and I don't know exactly. I remember the end scene, which was kind of frustrating because, you know, they end up getting like schwacked anyway. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that sort of struggle. There was like one other submarine movie. It was like U-507 or something, but like the struggle with the submarines during that time frame, it's just really freaking fascinating. And I kind of forgot how they actually got out of like the main conflict. But yeah, this thing just sunk. They were being hunted down constantly. They were just waiting for the pressure of like the ocean to just cave the sucker in. And it was just, yeah, it was really fascinating to watch. I was definitely glued to this movie as I was watching it. So I'm going to put this one at a high B as well. Surprisingly, I mean, not surprisingly, especially for a Marine and soldier and also infantryman, these are going to be pretty freaking high. I don't know if there's many war movies that I would include that would be on the D, E, and F tier. So I think Das Boot was solid. It had really good drama, and I don't really say that a lot with war movies, but I think it did a good job with it, especially just the situation that they were in is just really crappy. And yeah, they did a good job with it. So I'm not sure how old it is. I think it's a little bit older, but it is a solid war movie at that. Okay, oh, here we go. This one, I really need to start unlocking some memories. So I think this came out probably when I was in high school, maybe around like 2009 or 2010. Green Zone. This was very, very dramatic. I think it focused more on drama than anything. I will say right off the bat, I basically hated this movie. It just, I don't know. It's just, Matt Damon is cool. He does a lot of solid movies, but this one was just, I don't know. I couldn't really get stuck in it. So I would probably throw it at an E tier. There's like literally nothing memorable about it. I remember the general story. I remember he ends up meeting like some dude who had a missing arm or a leg, and it was kind of cool in that regard. And it was just really like, kind of antsy because he's being like tracked down or he's trying to hide or something. But it was a solid movie, but not for me, not at all. Especially because it's really focusing heavily on that drama, and I don't know. I couldn't get any sort of emotional attachment to it. So I think E is a pretty good place for it to be. But I will say it's definitely a hard thing to sort of have that like early Iraq behind the scenes, like what is going on, trying to get that and put it into a movie where people can understand it and appreciate it. I think it's definitely a risky thing to do for a movie. So again, I'm sure it was a solid one, just not really clicking with me specifically. The Hurt Locker. This one was not that good either. It was good when you're watching it. I'll say that, but if this was on, I would not even think twice about continuing to watch it because it had good action, but sometimes it was just like, I don't know, kind of weird. It was nice to add some of the drama, especially like when they're losing their own guys. That like really started sticking with me. But sometimes it just like gets you a little bit too detached, like when he takes off all of his gear and he's going to like, defuse bombs and whatnot. Probably not that realistic, unless it is based off of a real character or something. I'm not too sure about that one. But yeah, it was okay. I'm gonna put it at a C tier. I do remember liking it, and I watched it a couple of times, but it's not something that I would watch nowadays, and it's just not generally my highest. Man, I don't know. I kind of want to bump Full Metal Jacket down a little bit more. Again, I think it's obligatory for me to put this a step higher. I think I would put it at a D tier, but I'm thinking about all the Marine references and how accurate the drill instructor scenes are. So that's why that's there. But Hurt Locker, it was a good movie. I think it was well done. Who was the actor with that? The dude who does Hawkeye. That's not his name. Okay, Jeremy Renner. Okay, I think he did a good job with it. I think he's a little bit more believable with war movies than Matt Damon is. And I'm not sure why that is specifically. I think he just, I don't know, has the appearance for it. But the next one we are checking out, this one is going to be hard for me. This is Jarhead. So of all the Marine movies that I remember watching and comparing to what I would imagine the Marine Corps to be like, it was Jarhead. And even after the fact, watching Jarhead when I was a Marine, it's pretty freaking accurate because, you get a lot of highs, you get a lot of lows. It shows a little bit of like the hazing that goes on whenever you get to your unit and whatnot. And back then it was slightly different, but a lot of that mindset was very similar. And a lot of the crappy stuff you do when you're like lower enlisted is definitely still there. But yeah, I think the main character was like a sniper. He was really just trying to get like his first kill or what have you. And I think he just never got it. And in the background, of course, he's dealing with his own dramas. I think he goes back home and he's just very detached. So I think this was a really bold movie in how they did everything as far as like adding that sort of drama, adding that PTSD, and also adding the sort of expectations of what you think about the military and kind of just shattering them. So I will put Jarhead at an A tier. I really, damn. I don't know if I want to do that actually. I'm going to put it at an A tier. And that's just because it does a really good job of being accurate. It's not the most entertaining to watch. I probably wouldn't watch it nowadays. I mean, I definitely wouldn't watch it because I watched it a bunch. But I think it does a really good job of taking all this stuff that you wouldn't normally see in a war movie or like seeing the focus that you wouldn't normally see and putting it into a movie that's relatively entertaining. Yeah, no, I'm putting it at a B tier. Sorry. I'm just thinking like how it compares to Platoon and We Were Soldiers. I'm like, I wouldn't watch Jarhead nowadays at all, but I would definitely do that with Platoon and We Were Soldiers. But Jarhead, yeah, you're good at a B tier. You can even go at a high B. It did a good job at what it was trying to do. It's just not that fantastic of a movie. I think Jake Gyllenhaal did a really good job at it. And then Denzel Washington, I think, was the other main character. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot of development in that movie. All right, so the last one, this one is going to be an S tier immediately. Bravo 2-0. Okay, I think thinking back on all the war movies that I watched, Bravo 20 is the one that I remember watching the earliest and just getting like so fixated. I'm like, damn, this is freaking badass. Like they're escaping evasion. They have some cool action scenes. They have all the cool kits. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a really cool story in and of itself. And I think they did a good job. Also, Sean Bean is like a freaking awesome actor. So I think it's kind of hard to not like anything that Sean Bean is in. And of course, just look at the artwork. You got that awesome M16, M203 classic combination. Yeah, it is a fantastic movie. I'm sure y'all over in the UK will agree, but I want to know what you guys think, because you guys might know the sort of background or the actual story of that situation a little bit better than me. And I'm not sure. To me, I think the movie did a pretty good justice, but that might not be the case for some of y'all. So definitely let me know. But yeah, this is our ranking. Again, let me know what you guys think. Let's see if I want to reorganize any of these. Yeah, Green Zone, would never even consider watching that. It's almost like I barely remembered this movie. That's why it's like so low. Black Hawk Down, Unknown Soldier, Bravo 20, absolutely freaking legendary movies. Platoon, We Were Soldiers, again, fantastic. Really hard to not want to watch those several times. Again, Saving Private Ryan, 1917. All these were good. Definitely memorable. A lot of y'all, I'm sure, would put these probably at an A or an S tier. But yeah, these down here, not so personal for me, so that's why it's a little bit lower. So I think we got a pretty good spread. Again, we're sort of stuck in between the A and B tier, which is kind of just what I think with all war movies. It's kind of hard for me not to like war movies when I get to see all this gear and all this cool action going on. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, especially if you guys aren't from a military background. You guys might not care about war movies as much as people who are in the military. I'm not sure if that's the case, especially if you're not in the U.S. or if you're not from the U.S. I feel like you might not care so much about war movies as much either. But definitely let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Hopefully I didn't offend any of y'all with some of my ratings, but if you liked Green Zone, if you put Green Zone and S tier, that's questionable. So I'll just leave it at that. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I might do a part 2 if you guys want to see it. So let me know that as well. But that is it for this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.